What? Did Jerry Jones just lose his mind? Hold on to your jerseys, NFL fans, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you thought you knew about America's team. The Dallas Cowboys, yes, the Dallas Cowboys, just traded away their defensive superstar, their franchise cornerstone, their future. Micah Parsons is no longer a Cowboy. But here's the kicker. He's not just gone. He's now the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history with a jaw-dropping $188 million contract. And the team that pulled off this heist? The Green Bay Packers just became instant Super Bowl contenders. Stick around, because this story has more twists than a Hollywood blockbuster. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this single trade just changed the entire landscape of the NFL forever. Let me paint you a picture of what could have been the perfect NFL love story. Back in 2021, draft night was magical for Dallas. Picture this, the Cowboys war room, Jerry Jones grinning from ear to ear, and a young defensive phenom named Micah Parsons falling right into their laps at pick 12. It was like Christmas morning for Cowboys Nation. Parsons himself remembered that night with pure emotion, saying the joy of draft night and the adrenaline of running out of that tunnel for the first time would be memories he'd cherish forever. 4 years ago, this looked like a match made in football heaven, and boy did Parsons deliver on that promise. In just 4 seasons wearing that iconic star, this man was an absolute monster. We're talking about 256 tackles, 63 tackles for loss, and a mind-blowing 52.5 sacks. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Parsons wasn't just playing football, he was redefining what it means to be a modern NFL defender. He was the guy who could rush the quarterback on one play and drop into coverage the next. He made offensive coordinators lose sleep at night trying to figure out how to scheme around him. Parsons became the heartbeat of that Dallas defense, the player who could single-handedly change the momentum of any game. But here's where our fairy tale starts to turn into a nightmare. You see, Dallas has this, let's call it a tradition. They love to wait when it comes to paying their stars. They did it with Dak Prescott, they did it with CeeDee Lamb, and now they were trying to do it with Parsons. What started as normal contract negotiations slowly began to sour. The 2025 season was approaching. Parsons was entering the final year of his rookie deal. And instead of securing their franchise defensive player, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys front office decided to play hardball. The tension was building. Parsons wanted what he deserved, to be paid like the elite player he had proven himself to be. The Cowboys, they wanted him to prove it for another year. Can you imagine being one of the best defensive players in the entire league and being told you need to prove yourself more? The relationship that once seemed unbreakable was cracking, and those cracks were about to become a complete fracture that would shock the entire football world. On one side, you have Micah Parsons and his representation, asking for what every elite player deserves, a contract that reflects their value. On the other side, you have Jerry Jones, the billionaire owner who's never been afraid to make bold moves, even when they seem absolutely crazy to everyone else. This wasn't just about money anymore. This had become a full-blown staring contest between two unmovable forces. And folks, Jerry Jones has been playing this game for almost 4 decades. He's the same man who traded away Herschel Walker back in 1989. And now, history was repeating itself in the most dramatic way possible. When rumors started swirling about potential trade interest, what do you think happened? Parsons' team went back to the Cowboys, hoping to salvage this relationship, hoping to find middle ground. They were probably thinking, surely Dallas won't actually let their best defensive player walk away. Right? The ultimatum that changed everything. But Jerry Jones had other plans. The response from the Cowboys organization was ice cold and absolutely brutal. Play on the 5th year or leave. Can you believe that? Play on the 5th year or leave. Those 7 words essentially ended a 4-year relationship and sent shockwaves through the NFL. This wasn't negotiation. This was Jerry Jones throwing down the gauntlet and daring Parsons to walk away. And you know what? Parsons called his bluff. Then came Thursday, a day that will go down in NFL history. Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, and Jane Slater broke the news that sent the entire football world into absolute chaos. The Dallas Cowboys were trading Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. The moment Parsons landed in Green Bay, he signed the most insane defensive contract in NFL history. 4 years, $188 million, with $136 million guaranteed. That's $47 million per year, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the entire league. To put this in perspective, that's 38% more than what Nick Bosa was making, and completely shatters every previous defensive contract. Parsons went from being told to prove it for another year to becoming the richest defensive player on the planet in less than 24 hours. And how did Micah Parsons react to this life-changing moment? He absolutely lost his mind with joy. Videos surfaced of him running around his house, practically bouncing off the walls, shouting, "I'm richer than I've ever been!" You could see the pure, unfiltered happiness of a man who had just won the ultimate lottery. After months of being undervalued and disrespected by Dallas, he was now holding the biggest defensive contract in NFL history. Talk about the ultimate redemption story. Even NBA star Draymond Green couldn't help but weigh in on social media, throwing shade at Jerry Jones. Wow, Jerry didn't want to pay the money. Good bag, Micah. When NBA players are roasting NFL owners, you know something historic just happened. But even in his moment of triumph, Parsons showed incredible class. His farewell message to Cowboys Nation was absolutely heart-wrenching and showed the character of this young man. He called it a sad day but not a bitter one, and talked about never forgetting the joy of draft night, the adrenaline of running out of the tunnel, and the brotherhood he shared with his teammates. He promised to keep North Texas as his home during the off-season and to continue giving back to the community that gave him so much. "Wearing the star has been the honor of my life," he said, showing that despite how this ended, he genuinely cherished his time in Dallas. This wasn't just a business transaction. This was a young man saying goodbye to a place and people that helped shape him into who he is today. That takes incredible maturity and grace under pressure. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. What was Jerry Jones thinking? At an impromptu press conference, Jones defended the move, saying, "We did think it was in the best interest of our organization." Think about this for a moment. Jerry Jones just traded away a 26-year-old defensive superstar entering his prime. Some people are calling him absolutely insane. Others are wondering if this is another one of his legendary gambles that somehow works out. Jones has never been afraid to make shocking moves. This is the same man who fired legendary coach Tom Landry and traded Herschel Walker in deals that seemed crazy at the time. Is this another stroke of genius? Or did Jerry just make the biggest mistake of his ownership career? The truth is, only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, Jerry Jones just proved once again that he's willing to make moves that no other owner in the league would even consider. Meanwhile, in Green Bay, the Packers just pulled off what might be the heist of the century. Think about what they just accomplished. They acquired a 26-year-old defensive superstar who's arguably in his prime, and they have him locked up for 4 more years. Jordan Love now has one of the most dominant defensive players in the entire league, protecting leads and creating short fields. The Packers, who haven't won a Super Bowl since 2010, just added the missing piece that could finally get them back to the promised land. This isn't just about 2025. This is about setting up a championship window that could last for years. While other teams are still trying to figure out how to build championship rosters, Green Bay just fast-tracked their timeline with one bold move. But this trade's impact goes far beyond just Dallas and Green Bay. Every team in the NFL is now scrambling to figure out what this means for their own championship aspirations. For NFC North rivals like Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota, they just watched their biggest competition get significantly stronger. The Lions, who many considered the favourites in the division, now have to deal with Micah Parsons twice a year. For the rest of the NFC, the playoff picture just got a whole lot more complicated. The Packers went from being a solid playoff contender to being a legitimate Super Bowl threat overnight. And for defensive players around the league, Parsons just reset the entire market. His $47 million per year contract is going to have agents across the country updating their client presentations. Every elite pass rusher is now pointing to this deal as the new standard. So where do the Cowboys go from here? They now have 2 extra first-round picks and Kenny Clark, a proven veteran defensive lineman. Jerry Jones is betting that this compensation package will help them build something even better. But here's the harsh reality. They just traded away a generational talent in his prime. Those first-round picks might hit, but they also might not. And even if they do hit, it'll take years for those players to reach Parsons' level of impact. The Cowboys are essentially hitting the reset button on their defense and gambling that they can find lightning in a bottle twice. It's a massive risk that could either look brilliant in 5 years or go down as one of the worst trades in franchise history. All eyes are now on September 7th, when the Packers open their season against the Detroit Lions. Imagine being a Lions fan right now, knowing you have to face Aaron Rodgers' successor Jordan Love and Micah Parsons in the same game. That's a nightmare scenario for any offensive coordinator. This game isn't just a season opener anymore. It's the debut of potentially the most dominant defense in the NFC. If Parsons comes out and dominates in that Packers uniform, it's going to send a message to the entire league that Green Bay means business. For Cowboys fans, that same weekend is going to be emotional torture. They'll be watching their former defensive superstar tearing up opposing offenses while wondering what could have been. Here's what makes this trade so fascinating. Both teams are betting on completely different timelines. The Cowboys are betting on the future, hoping those draft picks turn into something special. The Packers are betting on right now, believing they have a championship window that's wide open. With Jordan Love entering his second year as a starter and weapons like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs continuing to develop, Green Bay looks like a team ready to make serious noise in the playoffs. Adding Parsons to that mix creates a defense that can match their offensive potential. The pressure is now on both teams to prove they made the right choice. For Dallas, they need to show that life without Parsons can still lead to success. For Green Bay, they need to turn this massive investment into playoff victories and hopefully a Super Bowl championship. But beyond all the X's and O's, beyond the contract numbers and draft picks, this story is really about people. It's about a young man who gave everything to an organization and felt undervalued. It's about an owner who made one of the toughest decisions of his career. It's about fans on both sides experiencing every emotion possible. Parsons' celebration video showed us the raw, human side of this business. That wasn't just excitement about money. That was the joy of someone who finally felt appreciated, who finally felt valued at his true worth. His goodbye message to Dallas showed us something equally powerful, that you can be disappointed with how things ended while still being grateful for the journey. That's a level of maturity that goes beyond his years and speaks to the character that made him special in the first place. This trade represents something bigger than just 2 teams swapping players. Parsons' contract just changed the entire economics of defensive football. We're now living in an era where elite defensive players can command quarterback money. That's going to reshape how teams build their rosters for years to come. Think about young pass rushers around the league, like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt and Khalil Mack. Their agents are already on the phone, pointing to Parsons' deal as the new benchmark. This contract is going to create a domino effect that impacts every major defensive free agency and trade negotiation going forward. What the Packers just did also sends a powerful message about their organizational mindset. This is a franchise that's tired of being pretty good and ready to be great again. They looked at their championship drought since 2010 and decided enough was enough. Sometimes in the NFL, you have to make bold moves to break through to the next level. The Packers could have played it safe, developed their young players gradually, and hoped for the best. Instead, they went out and acquired a game-changing talent who can immediately elevate their entire defense. Can we take a moment to think about the fans in all this? Cowboys fans woke up Thursday morning thinking about their upcoming season with Parsons anchoring the defense. By Thursday night, they're watching highlight reels of him in a Packers uniform. Meanwhile, Packers fans went from cautiously optimistic about their defense to absolutely electric about their Super Bowl chances in the span of a few hours. Social media exploded with Green Bay fans welcoming their new defensive superstar, while Dallas fans expressed everything from heartbreak to fury. This is what makes the NFL so addictive. You never know when your entire season outlook can change with one phone call, one trade announcement, one breaking news alert. Think about the coaching implications here. Mike McCarthy in Dallas now has to completely restructure his defensive game plans without his best player. Meanwhile, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay gets to add one of the most versatile defensive weapons in the league to his arsenal. For Dallas, they're not just losing Parsons' production, they're losing his leadership, his energy, and his ability to make everyone around him better. The NFC North just became the most competitive division in football, and it happened overnight. The Detroit Lions, who many considered the favorites to win the division, now have to deal with Parsons twice a year. Can you imagine trying to game plan for that Packers pass rush now? Chicago and Minnesota are probably having emergency meetings right now, trying to figure out how this changes their own roster construction plans. When one team in your division makes a move this significant, everyone else has to respond accordingly. But it's not just NFC North that's affected. Every NFC playoff contender just watched one of their biggest threats get significantly stronger. Teams like Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Atlanta are now looking at their own rosters and wondering if they need to make countermoves. The NFC was already loaded with talent, but now you have to account for a Packers team with legitimate championship aspirations. That changes everything about how the conference playoff race is going to unfold. You can bet that general managers across the league are studying this trade with intense focus. The Packers prove that if you believe you have a championship window, you go for it, even if it means giving up significant future assets. How many other teams are now picking up the phone, calling about available star players? How many franchises are willing to mortgage future first-round picks for immediate championship chances? This trade might have just started a domino effect of aggressive moves across the NFL. And let's talk about what this means for future negotiations. Parsons' $47 million per year contract doesn't just affect him. It affects every elite defensive player in the league. Agents are already using this deal to argue for higher contracts for their clients. Teams now have to decide, are they willing to pay quarterback money for elite defensive players? The Packers decided yes. And that decision is going to influence how every franchise approaches building their roster. Let's talk about the human element here, because sometimes we forget these are real people with real emotions behind all the headlines. Imagine being Micah Parsons over the past few months, dealing with contract uncertainty, feeling undervalued by the organization you've given everything to, and not knowing where your future lies. That celebration video we saw? That wasn't just about money, that was about validation. That was a young man who had been made to feel like he wasn't worth top dollar compensation, suddenly being told he's the most valuable defensive player in the entire league. The pure joy and relief in that moment was completely authentic. After months of stress and uncertainty, Parsons could finally breathe again. He wasn't just celebrating a payday, he was celebrating being appreciated for who he is and what he brings to the table. On the flip side, think about Cowboys fans who have been through this emotional rollercoaster. They've watched their team let talented players walk away before, but Parsons felt different. He was young, he was homegrown to their system, and he represented hope for the future of the franchise. Losing Parsons isn't just about losing a player. It's about losing the face of their defense. The guy who embodied everything you want in a Cowboy. His farewell message showed how much the organization and fan base meant to him, which somehow makes this separation even more painful. And what about Jerry Jones himself? This is a man who spent almost 4 decades building America's team into what it is today. He's made controversial decisions before, but trading a 26-year-old superstar in his prime, that takes incredible conviction and confidence in your vision. Jones isn't just betting on those draft picks and Kenny Clark, he's betting on his ability to build championship teams through different methods. At 82 years old, he's still making moves that would make younger executives nervous. You have to respect that level of boldness, even if you disagree with the decision. The Packers have now put themselves in an incredibly interesting position. They've got a young quarterback in Jordan Love who showed flashes of brilliance last season, a receiving core that's steadily improving, and now one of the most dominant defensive players in the league. But here's the thing, with great power comes great pressure. Green Bay just committed massive resources to this championship run. They gave up 2 first-round picks and signed Parsons to a record-breaking deal. There's no more building for the future talk. This is a win-now situation. The expectations in Green Bay just skyrocketed. Anything less than a deep playoff run is now going to be considered a disappointment. But if this move works and the Packers make a Super Bowl run, it'll be remembered as one of the greatest trades in franchise history. Meanwhile, Dallas is in a fascinating position. They now have extra draft capital and a proven veteran in Kenny Clark. But they've also created a massive hole in their defense that needs to be filled immediately. The question is, are the Cowboys rebuilding or retooling? Jerry Jones seems to believe they can remain competitive while also setting up for future success. But losing a player of Parsons' caliber means other players need to step up significantly. Jamarcus Lawrence, Trevon Diggs, and the rest of the Dallas defense now have enormous pressure on their shoulders. They need to prove that this team can still be elite without their former superstar. Mark your calendars for September 7th at 3:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because the Lions vs. Packers season opener just became must-see television. This isn't just any regular season game anymore. This is Micah Parsons' debut in Green Bay colors, and the entire NFL world will be watching. Can you imagine being Detroit right now? They thought they were going to waltz into Green Bay and establish early division dominance. Instead, they're walking into a hornet's nest with a newly motivated Packers team led by their record-breaking defensive acquisition. The pressure on Parsons in that first game is going to be absolutely enormous. Everyone will be watching to see if he can justify that massive contract right out of the gate. No pressure, right? This trade is going to have consequences that stretch far beyond this season. The Cowboys are betting that Kenny Clark can help stabilize their defense while those first-round picks develop into impact players. The Packers are betting that Parsons is the final piece they need for championship glory. 5 years from now, we'll be able to look back and definitively say which side made the right choice. But right now, in this moment, both teams are all in on their respective visions of success. Here's what's really exciting. This trade might just be the beginning. When one team makes a splash this big, it often triggers other franchises to make their own aggressive moves. We could be looking at the start of a crazy trade season, where contending teams start going all in for 2025. Keep your eyes on teams like Buffalo, Baltimore, and San Francisco. Are they going to sit back and watch Green Bay get stronger, or are they going to make their own blockbuster moves to keep pace? Whether you're a Cowboys fan, a Packers fan, or you root for a completely different team, this trade should have you absolutely fascinated. This is why we love football. This is why the NFL is the ultimate reality show. In one day, we watched a relationship dissolve, a record-breaking contract get signed, championship aspirations shift dramatically, and the entire landscape of professional football change. That's the kind of drama that makes this sport so addictive. At its core, this story reminds us that the NFL is about people, their dreams, their ambitions, their relationships, and their willingness to take incredible risks for success. Micah Parsons bet on himself and won big. Jerry Jones bet on his ability to build differently, and only time will tell if he's right. The Packers bet on their championship window being open right now, while the Cowboys bet on their ability to build sustained success through smart asset management. These are the kinds of philosophical differences that make every NFL season unpredictable and exciting. The 2025 NFL season hasn't even started yet, but we already know it's going to be absolutely unforgettable. This Micah Parsons trade has set the stage for drama, excitement, and storylines that will captivate us for months to come. Every Packers defensive snap will be analysed. Every Cowboys defensive struggle will be scrutinised. every time these teams meet in future seasons, this trade will be the backdrop to those games. We're about to witness something special, folks. We're about to see if bold moves and massive contracts translate to championship glory, or if playing it conservative and building through the draft proves to be the smarter path. The NFL just gave us one of the most shocking and fascinating trades in recent memory. Micah Parsons went from contract disputes in Dallas to becoming the highest paid defensive player in history in Green Bay. Jerry Jones made another one of his legendary gambles. The Packers positioned themselves as immediate championship contenders, and we all got to witness football history in the making. This is exactly why we love this sport, because on any given day, everything can change with one phone call, one trade announcement, one breaking news alert. The 2025 season is going to be absolutely incredible, and this trade just set the stage for drama that we'll be talking about for years to come. But here's the thing, this is just the beginning. The NFL landscape is shifting rapidly, and there's so much more breaking news and analysis coming your way. If you want to stay ahead of every major move, every shocking trade, and every game-changing development this season, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. Because trust me, if today taught us anything, it's that the NFL never stops surprising us.